Today we will do an overview of accompaniment, and I'd like to begin with Jacqueline Novogratz' description of the secret of accompaniment. She says, "I will hold a mirror for you to see your value, and I will bear witness to your suffering and to your light. And over time, you will do the same for me. In that relationship lies the promise of shared human dignity and of mutual encouragement to do the hard things in life." I love those words. There's a lyrical beauty about them that you wouldn't think that your average Stanford MBA would be able to pen, but she has, and her book on the moral revolution is outstanding. I would highly recommend it. What she's really talking about here, I think, is what we often refer to as a relationship that is described as coaching, or being a bit of a cheerleader, or a friend, a real friend, a friend who is always there. This business of holding a mirror so that we can see how we are of value. Wow, what a great concept. And that brings me to how this idea of accompaniment aligns with mindfulness. In mindfulness, we talk about awareness, and often we describe awareness as being like a mirror, that capacity to reflect back to us what's going on without being affected by it. For instance, we might note that anger is present with us in some moment. And if we think about a mirror, we realize mirrors never get angry. So there's that awareness quality in the notion of mirror and accompaniment, which is really seeing clearly. Mirrors always see clearly unless they are deliberately distorted or clouded, but those are artificial devices. A simple mirror sees clearly. It sees what's right in front of it. And of course, mindfulness is about kindness, a relationship of shared human dignity and mutual encouragement. Those are very much about kindness. And accompaniment also includes taking action, taking the kind of action that we do in mindfulness, where perhaps we're just walking or sitting in silence with someone else, perhaps even with just ourselves. Or maybe we're engaged in deep listening, allowing the other to talk, to share, to put out there what's going on with him or her. Perhaps providing information, or maybe engaging in deep inquiry. But accompaniment is never about advice giving. It is never about imposing one's thoughts and ideas on another. Just think for a moment about the distinction between offering information and imposing one's thoughts and ideas on another. There are several reasons that I think it's worth our while to explore accompaniment. In one way, it's an attitude, a behavior, a way of showing up in life for not making life harder. We talk so often in here about how life is hard, and we are inclined to make it harder. Accompaniment is one of those ways of being and showing up that is the opposite of making life harder. It can make us aware of the 4 conditions of being human that are beyond our control, of the details of those conditions and how they show up in our lives. By offering a mirror, it's a way of showing up that's about taking care of ourselves, about well-being. And accompaniment can apply to ourselves. We can accompany ourselves. It can apply to loved ones. It can apply to friends. It can apply to our sense of community that extends beyond friends. And if we're willing to stretch ourselves a little bit, go right out to the edges and slightly beyond, we discover that accompaniment also applies with regard to all of life, all of the planet, everything that is there. Accompaniment is the opposite of othering. Othering is this national disease that is running as rampant at COVID these days, in which we hear somebody speak or write something and we don't like it. So we immediately go to that person's a jerk, doesn't know what they're talking about. We go from being just judgmental about it to being disdainful to being degrading to perhaps even allowing ourselves to have some hate for people like that. Accompaniment is the opposite of that. We can accompany anybody at any time. Accompaniment doesn't require being physically close. It doesn't require either approval or disapproval. When we choose to accompany ourselves and extend it to all of humanity, then we're in a state of grace, a state of ease, a way of being and showing up with life that gives us a lot of options. The foundation of accompaniment is the reality of our interconnectedness. Whether we want to see interconnectedness as a matter of science, for instance, quantum physics principle of non-locality, or we want to see it in how rapidly COVID spread around the world, in nothing flat. If we want to see it in terms of our human, how we have evolved as humans with this inclination to belong, this inclination to nurture our young, so essential. And we think about our own experiences. I have a feeling that not many of us prefer loneliness to belonging. We may value our alone time, but that's different from being lonely. So let's roll into a little practice here and work with accompaniment. Applying the words of our friend La Sarmiento in their meditation accompanying the 10% Happier Lasso Challenge. La says, finding a posture that your body appreciates. Finding a posture that your body appreciates. And settling into that posture. Allowing your attention to gather in this moment. Allowing softening around the eyes, the jaw muscles. And turning our attention to our breathing. Again, as La says, knowing you are breathing in, knowing you are breathing out. That knowing might go to how the in-breath or the out-breath shows up in your body. The flow of air, the rising and falling of the chest, expanding and contracting of the belly. And now bringing to mind your experiences in the breakout groups in our sessions. Noticing what thoughts are arising about those experiences. What emotions, feelings are arising? Perhaps coming up with 3 to 4 words that describe these experiences. And now inquiring of yourself, in what ways are my experiences in the breakout groups about accompaniment? About someone else's holding a mirror showing you your value. You're doing that for another. About bearing witness to suffering and light. About shared human dignity. About mutual encouragement. And notice any physical sensations. Where in your body you are feeling this accompaniment experience in the breakout groups.